This seems to always happen whenever a tournament or an event or anything happens with results. There was an exhibition. Let's have like Saudi Arabia fight Pakistan in like a team battle, and let's have this happen and that happen. And Atif played some Brian. For those of you who don't know, he actually played Brian before in like Tekken 7 also. He's an experienced Brian player, but this is a clip of him just taunt jet uppering and everybody's hype, and he does it a lot. He lands like a bunch of taunt jet uppers, and I watched like a bunch of his Brian from this, and it was sick. And I don't mean to highlight this tweet to draw more attention to it, but it was the start of, I think, a conversation around this. And it was basically like someone, this is me, says that Brian is so hard to execute and he can't be top one. And it started like a character crusade about this guy. All the tweets I saw were Brian Fury. Yeah, Brian's so cheap. Yeah, Brian's so cheap. Like, look, he just showed why Brian's so good. And Brian is this, and Brian is that, and Brian is this. And I think a great side-by-side, an example, when this guy won Evo, I basically saw no tweets that were like, yeah, Blanca's broken. And my opinion on this hasn't changed. It's not like he wins and I'm like, wait a minute, he was top tier the whole time. Like, Blanca, he's pretty good. Nothing crazy. He's not super bad. He's not super cheap. Like, he's just fine. The difference in this conversation around this and him just like hitting taunt jet uppers in an exhibition is absurd. I feel like most of the conversation I saw actually, and all the stuff that spawned from this, his name wasn't even in the tweet. It was mostly just all this word. It's like, all I saw after Arslan won Evo was Anna. And you see it with other games too. Like Carl Clover in BlazBlue won one tournament and then he just won again. But everybody freaking out about Carl. Johnny wins Evo in Guilty Gear. A lot of people have stuff to say about Johnny, right? If the character is considered strong when they win, it's easy ammunition to dump on the character and not give credit to the player. If the person who wins you don't like, using their character as the excuse for why they win is quite common. If the character that you play loses, using somebody's like beating that character as ammunition to talk about your character is like a thing that people do as well. Not mentioning the players involved at all. I think people do this a lot. Like Arslan just tweeting Brian. Nee just tweeting Anna. Like they don't even name each other. They just like flame the character. And the implication here from both of them is that the other person's character is broken and stupid and dumb, and that's why they're winning and not the person piloting the character, right? The way people talk is as if the human beings piloting the character don't matter and don't exist. The character is so broken that it could be any faceless void piloting the character. It's the same. So I might as well say the name of the character rather than the person. That's the vibe when you talk about it this way. If that's true, is the game not just like not worth caring about? The more you strip away any semblance of decision making and like effort and skill on the part of the players competing, the less value there is in even thinking about the game in the first place, because it's just like, oh, the character won. Yeah, the character's cheap and broken and busted, and like the decision making of the player doesn't matter. And I don't think it's good for anybody. You do a disservice to that person, because I'm telling you right now, if you win, you're gonna be like, I did it. And someone else is gonna be like, oh man, Nagori Yuki won Evo. The way you discuss it is disparaging to the player, because your objective is to prop up the character or like create discourse around character balance. The objective is clear. It's like Brian is cheap and dumb and stupid. This is what matters, not the performance or skill or anything of the player. It's like, this is the only thing that matters. I heard a ton of that before Evo, and like the downplay propaganda between Brian and Anna was like a pretty big thing. We can all just pick the best characters, or we can all pick the worst characters, but obviously it comes down to the player piloting the character. If it was so trivial for other strong players to just pick the best character and like win, they would probably simply do it. And like at the end of the day, there's 12 people playing Mai, and like one of them is gonna do well in the tournament, and the others, you know, who knows, right? And for better or for worse, the way Tekken is played at the highest level is that the best players swap to whatever the cheapest thing is and play it. That's why there was 5 Leroys in top 8 of Evo Japan that one year, right? When Fakumram came out and like Afrika had the tournament, and I watched like 4 Fakumram mirrors in a row in Tekken 7. It was like Knee versus Ulsan versus JDCR versus Kokoma versus, and like it was all Fakumram mirrors. Literally every single person was playing Fakumram. And you watch Tekken Grand Finals, Anna versus Anna, like they do pick whatever is the best. And I think part of that is because of how Tekken is built. The characters have so many universal tools. You learn like their punishes for each speed, and then you play the Tekken fundamentals. There's more merit to doing that in that kind of a game, because so much of the system is similar per character. The other comparison that you guys brought up, but I think is very true, is like SNK games. Every time you watch King of Fighters, you're gonna see mostly the same characters generally from player to player, right? And the reason is that the characters are all kind of doing the same thing. So you just pick the best version of that character in that season or like whatever. Because there's so many characters in the game that have fireballs and uppercuts and like a special move to do combos with, and the way the system works is pretty similar, right? So like you just pick the best version of it and it makes sense. It's really just the player doing the work because everybody is playing the same shit. Like Xiaohai wins and every single person is playing similar teams-ish. So it's just, he has the best fundamentals and is making the best decisions. I think if you want to think about that, there's actually a really interesting thread about this. You know, Idom brought up just now that Street Fighter is very like, the system of the game has so much of the power that all the characters feel viable for the most part. And at their weakest, they have the power level of the Street Fighter 6 system, which is like here. Somebody asked, and this is a very important question, at Evo, someone mentioned that non-point characters' attacks will always be mids instead of retaining their high or low attack properties. This is for 2xKO. Did Apology Man find some dark arts in testing, or is it just too much? Would love to know more. Basically, let's say you did an overhead attack and you tagged to your other character. That overhead from the character that was out stayed as an overhead. You still had to block it overhead. That is how the game worked before. It would just retain the properties of overhead or low. That is not like that in most other games. In most other games, assists and like characters that are not on screen are mid. So that way you can block it overhead or low, so you don't have to consider it. So they asked like, why did you do this, right? The reason we noticed is a style of mix-up that became very homogenous. Right? Call an assist, do a high attack with the point character, handshake tag, go low. So every single team is just doing the same thing. The system made it so that the characters were not doing character defining mix-ups. Ari is good at doing high-low mix-ups. Cool. Now so is Braum. Other notes about this style of mix-up was that it was technically a one-frame switch blockable, because when a high and a low hit on the same frame, you got unblockable protection. So in theory, you could low block for every frame until the literal frame before the non-point high. It was insanely difficult to do this consistently as a defender while being very lazy to set up for the offensive player. Really easy. And was so easily accessible that it overshadowed more unique mix-ups characters could do. No one has their own overheads or lows or left rights or strike throw. It's like every single character's mix-up is the exact same. So if you shift stuff away from the system power, you can buff the offense of the characters individually. And something a lot of people talked about with Tokon, I think. Tokon has not strong active tag like other games have. Because of that, you feel the uniqueness of the characters a lot more, because it feels like a lot of the power is not in the system, like the tagging and like the active tag or active switching or anything like that. A lot of the power is in the character power. You decide how much you want the game to be like this. Like, I think it's cooler if Echo gets to do solo cool mix-ups with his clones and like he could use his install and do things like that, rather than if Echo was like, okay, I've done overhead. I will now be tagging to my other character so they can do a low. You know what I mean?